before this week I hadn't thought a lot about reciprocity specifically as a topic, so it felt to me like more worthwhile to kind of write my way through it this weekend as opposed to sitting up here and riffing on like an expert or crazy man. So I also realized this morning that I don't have a working printer, so I'm going to read it ridiculously out on my iPhone while you guys all sit in front of me, so you'll have to bear with me. But I think hopefully a bunch of the things I'll probably mention I can connect back to a lot of the other things people have already said, because really interesting to know right now. So is that scary? So you don't want to see it.
Can everybody hear him well, or should you speak maybe a little bit louder or behind?
Okay, I'll try to be as loud as I can. You're going to get a much more dramatic reading because of it. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. We'll go with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it then.
And take your time.
All right. Okay, so what are we actually talking about when we say reciprocity here? And are we talking about the same thing? And I kind of like the idea that someone mentioned before that there are kind of different notions of this. So to me, the idea of reciprocity that's most interesting is there's something that takes place between creative practitioners or equals, whether that's artists or curators or writers or choreographers or whomever. I'm less interested, at least for now, in the claim for reciprocity between artists and their immediate audience. That isn't to deny the role of the viewer in the story, but I'm just going to kind of leave it there for now. Since this isn't, I hadn't necessarily used this kind of framework as a way to think kind of about the way we might describe the ways we might live and work. It felt kind of worthwhile for me to unravel it for myself, kind of what it might mean in my own practice and the kind of anxiety. So that's kind of where I'm going to start. So in August 2010, I went to Harold Art's residency in rural Ohio. Some of the people here were there as well, kind of as a guest critic of sorts, specifically with the idea of writing an essay there in the trees. I soon scrapped that idea and decided that instead to be kind of a roving conversationalist among other participants. So I also ended up conducting 16 kind of casual interviews, one person at a time, as we kind of floated for hours in the middle of this in this little white boat in the middle of this pond. So what was the desired outcome? I wasn't entirely sure. Should these conversations be published? Probably not. But as I look back, it feels like this was kind of an initial effort for me to foster a general atmosphere of open exchange. I brought to it very few expectations. It was about carrying conversations forward and making connections between everyone else's ideas while kind of inserting them on my own as well. And I still think about many of these conversations, and it's spun off in other things as well. Kirsten was one of the other people there, and we talked for a long time. So I think maybe my invitation here today speaks to the fact that this experience is beneficial for other people too. Since then, I've embarked on a few other projects kind of in a collaborative spirit, specifically without kind of a certain end in sight. Right now, for instance, I'm organizing a two-part exhibition, which my role as a curator is not the usual one. It's more kind of about initiating a framework in which four artists and myself are kind of constantly figuring out how this exhibition should actually evolve. So the first part of this project will actually be staged next month in October. This former factory space in Humboldt Park, it's now this large resale business. So it's a crumbling warehouse packed full of stuff. The artists are using materials on site to make new works that will respond to this particular environment. But the thing is, after the exhibition closes, it's going to be fully dissolved without any kind of documentation really. It's only to be reformulated a year from now by the artists at the Hyde Park Art Center. For me, and I think for them as well, the scenario is less about telling a particular story than almost kind of living inside of this narrative. So what happens when you restage an exhibition essentially from memory in a different location? And as a year goes by, what effect does that have? The questions start to pile up, and it's as much up to the artist to decide how to answer them as it is up to me. So rather than a kind of predetermined curatorial conceit, this really feels like more of a conspiratorial effort. We're all kind of shaping the plot together as it unfolds. Are these effective examples of reciprocity in art? Maybe not, but they're moving in that direction at least. So preparing this talk is kind of a chance for me to think about why it seemed worthwhile, alongside kind of conventional exhibitions and writing endeavors, for me to do some unusual projects like this that were really founded on this ongoing exchange. Kind of what is this mentality that loose plays a part of that. But again, I want to go back to what does reciprocity really mean and what should we expect of it. I think we can expect a lot from the practice of reciprocity in general. But more and more I start to feel like we should have very few expectations if that means to coming to the table with a specific outcome in mind. I realize that we may not be everybody's view, but as a form of exchange and a notion that is barred from the world as large as some of other people's comments have mentioned, for me at least as I was sitting down to this, it's hard not to think about reciprocity in economic or else political terms. And these are spheres that are undeniably founded on the evaluation of maybe I was applying for this kind of thinking since I had just read the latest issue of the Eflux Journal, which is all about alternate economies. Regardless, the word reciprocity is not without its baggage. It's already associated with economics and international politics, with trade agreements and border crossings. One anecdote I had is when I was in Argentina a few years ago, people told me that to cross over to the Andes in Chile as an American, you had to pay $200. All right, what the fuck? Why the huge fee? It's like reciprocity is exactly what they said. Because the United States charges Chileans an insane amount to go through customs. The Chileans are going to turn right around and say to us. So we're living in a world, I don't think this should come as a surprise to anybody, but we're living in a world that's dominated by a capitalist worldview. It quietly sneaks into our creative practices, our work, and even our collaborative ventures, whether in how we structure them or in unspoken motivations. And I think the difficult thing about having a conversation like this is that fairly often reciprocal action becomes nothing more than a strategy, whether we're observing it in the world of art or in business. It becomes just another way to get ahead. It just happens to be clothed in elaborate language and carefully modulated postures. So the exchange at the heart of it is really easily instrumentalized. And then reciprocity becomes just another kind of transaction where we expect to recoup all of our efforts in equal measure. I think this is partially why I find myself disappointed on some occasions with some participatory art practices and kind of somewhat skeptical of a trend towards audience interaction in a lot of our institutions. I wonder if the so-called audience members are also being instrumentalized to kind of left to fill a predetermined slot in the social aesthetic matrix as if they were just a missing part of the machine. There are wonderful exceptions, but for many, some of these works start to wonder whether they can actually equate to a genuine exchange between people, especially something with lasting benefits. The unsettling thing is that many of the seemingly more appealing models that we might turn to as alternatives to this kind of worldview, say some of the alternative economies that sometimes get called to the service of our work, so just as tangled up in struggles for social power and dominance. So you can consider the gift economies that Marcel Mauss famously describes, like, gift economy may not be explicitly premised on competition, but neither are the societies that Mauss studied elsewhere founded miraculously on generosity. And that same recent Eflux Journal I mentioned before, Elizabeth Paganelli writes, for Mauss, the gift was a straightforward tripartite structure, the obligation to give, to receive, and to reciprocate. To offer a gift was to assert power over another, power that remained until the recipient could reverse the dynamic. Yield, she writes, a perpetual war of debt in which the books could never be settled. So the practice of exchange and reciprocation becomes burdened with the weight of expectations. Even if even the gift was compromised at this point, is this a problem for the very idea of reciprocity in art? I'm not entirely sure. But I do think we should make a distinction between reciprocation and reciprocity. And this goes back to an earlier comment about kind of the complexity of this word, and there's something nice about it, but I think we should also try to be kind of as precise as we can in the process. As I was going through this, reciprocation is an instance in which one responds to an action with a corresponding action. For example, the obligation to reciprocate a gift. Reciprocity, on the other hand, holds out the possibility, at least as I see it, for an ongoing mode of exchange, something more open. It's not just an act, but a broader platform of activity. It might even be a mindset. So my dictionary at home describes reciprocity as the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one country or another organization to another. The emphasis on mutual benefit is key, but most interesting to me is the hint, even in a socio-political example, that reciprocity might contain the possibility of a relationship based on equal standing and the spirit of openness. And I know that's a word that other people have mentioned. I like it as well. In this arrangement, the arrow points both ways rather than swinging back and forth as deals get done. So in a recent essay, Jan Wart writes briefly about the artist Francis Stark, and he describes how in her work she points toward the politics of appreciation, which in turn is an anti-economical motivation. And I have to say that this caught my eye as I read it. It seems to apply to here in a way that I really like. In one of our artworks, her work tells us, which took the form of a PowerPoint presentation actually, Stark writes that she is pondering the possibility of liberating oneself from the cycle of disengaged production, motivated by a craving for legitimizing praise. She continues, paradoxically, I look toward a mutual admiration society, to that ecstatic, reciprocal attention-paying of lovers, as an alternate model for understanding how and why equals might freely collaborate. So while I can't say I've consciously thought about reciprocity as a premise in my work before this week, and the invitation to kind of join you guys today, as I look back over kind of where I funnel my energy this year, Stark's outlook kind of really resonates with me. There's something promising in this alternative notion of reciprocal exchange, based more on kind of this model of mutual attention-paying lovers as opposed to like business partners or strategic allies. And I think in a roundabout way, I've kind of been trying to carve out a space in my own life for this kind of reciprocity, based on some deep-seated intuition that has value in itself. So it feels like a decent outlet to foster. If I can start to liberate myself from a cycle of disengaged production, motivated, craving for legitimizing praise, I'm all for it. But is this being overly idealistic? If we're honest, does reciprocity imply nothing more than cooperation towards a shared goal? Can be reduced to the small pleasures of audience participation and more interactive kinds of art? Is exchange always doomed to become a private means to an end? We can't easily exempt ourselves from competing on the terms of global capitalism. Maybe reciprocity, optimistically, is simply a deal in which no one gets fucked. But I hope not, and I don't think it has to be. We owe it to ourselves.